For centuries, the world's greatest empires shared a terrifying secret. Once their ships sailed out of sight of land, they were lost. They knew their latitude north to south, but their longitude, their east-west position, was a complete guess. A single navigational error could send a ship crashing into rocks or leave its crew starving in the empty ocean. The greatest scientific minds of the age, including Sir Isaac Newton, declared the problem unsolvable by mechanical means. They looked to the heavens for an answer, but the solution came not from a famous astronomer, but from a humble carpenter from the English countryside who dared to build the impossible. Hey, I'm Michael and welcome to Hoodie History. Today we're tackling one of the greatest scientific challenges in history, the Longitude Problem. It was a puzzle that held the world's naval powers hostage, and its solution would unlock the modern age of global navigation. This isn't just a story about a technical problem, it's a 4-decade-long saga of obsession, genius, and the relentless struggle of one man against the skeptical and hostile scientific establishment. It's the story of John Harrison, the self-taught clockmaker who took on the academic elite and, against all odds, built a machine that would change the world. To understand the scale of the problem, you have to understand the stakes. By the early 1700s, Britain was a growing maritime power, but its navy was being crippled by navigational disasters. In 1707, a Royal Navy fleet miscalculated its position in bad weather and smashed into the Isles of Scilly, killing nearly 2,000 sailors. The disaster created a public outcry. In response, the British government passed the Longitude Act of 1714. They offered a prize of £20,000, that's millions of pounds in today's money, to anyone who could invent a practical method for determining a ship's longitude at sea. The scientific establishment, led by astronomers, was convinced the answer lay in the stars. Their lunar distance method involved complex calculations of the moon's position relative to other celestial bodies. It was brilliant in theory, but impossibly difficult to perform on the rolling deck of a ship. Then, John Harrison arrived in London. He wasn't an astronomer or a university professor. He was a carpenter and joiner from rural Lincolnshire. He was entirely self-taught, but he had a gift. He had spent his life building clocks, not out of brass or steel like the London elite, but out of wood. And he had a radical, almost heretical idea. What if the solution wasn't in the stars, but in a clock? The theory was simple. To know your longitude, you just need to know two things: the time where you are, and the time at a fixed starting point, like Greenwich. The difference between the two tells you how far around the world you've traveled. The problem was that no clock could keep accurate time at sea. The pitching and rolling of a ship, combined with massive changes in temperature and humidity, would throw any normal pendulum clock off by miles within days. So Harrison set out to build a sea clock, a chronometer so robust and accurate it could withstand a transatlantic voyage. It took him decades. His first attempt, H1, was a 75-pound or 34-kilogram behemoth of brass, springs, and balancers that looked like a science fiction device. It worked, but not well enough. His second and third attempts were even larger and more complex. For nearly 30 years, Harrison labored, funded by small grants from the Board of Longitude, who remained deeply skeptical of his mechanical approach. The astronomers on the board, particularly the Astronomer Royal, Neville Maskelyne, were his chief rivals. They were heavily invested in their lunar distance method and saw Harrison as a provincial upstart. Finally, after a lifetime of work, Harrison unveiled his masterpiece, H4. It wasn't a giant clock, it was a beautiful oversized pocket watch just 13 centimeters across. It was elegant, compact, and Harrison believed it was the most accurate timekeeper on Earth. Now, he just had to prove it. In 1761, H4 was sent on a grueling 81-day voyage to Jamaica aboard the HMS Deptford. When the ship arrived, Harrison's chronometer was found to be just 5 seconds slow. This meant it had calculated the ship's longitude with an error of less than 2 kilometers. He had done it. He had solved the longitude problem and won the prize. Or so he thought. When he returned to London, the board of Longitude, led by his rival Maskelyne, refused to pay. They claimed the trial was a fluke. They changed the rules, demanding he build 2 more copies. They demanded he hand over all his secrets and designs. For years, they stonewalled him, paying out only small portions of the prize money, while continuing to champion their own, far more complicated astronomical method. It was a classic case of the establishment protecting its own interests. Harrison had proven them wrong, and they couldn't stand it. By now he was an old man, and his eyesight was failing, and it seemed as though the system he had tried to serve was going to cheat him out of his life's work. But Harrison had one last ally. He appealed directly to King George III. The king, a lover of science and mechanics, was furious when he heard Harrison's story. Legend has it that he famously declared, "By God, Harrison, I will see you righted." With the king's intervention, Parliament finally awarded Harrison the remainder of his prize money in 1773. He was 80 years old. He had solved the problem nearly a decade earlier, but it took an act of the king himself to finally get the recognition that he deserved. John Harrison's story is, on the surface, a triumph of genius and perseverance. And it is that, but it's also a powerful reminder that innovation is often met with resistance, not from a lack of evidence, but from institutional pride. The Board of Longitude wasn't evil or wicked, they were just blinded by their own expertise. They were a group of brilliant astronomers who were so convinced the solution had to be astronomical that they couldn't accept that a better answer had come from a completely different field, from a man with no formal credentials. Harrison's real genius wasn't just in his gears and springs, it was in his way of thinking. While the world's greatest minds were looking up at the heavens, he was looking down at his workbench. He solved a grand celestial problem with a practical earthly solution. His story proves that sometimes the most revolutionary ideas don't come from the center of power and academia, but from the fringes, from the self-taught obsessives who are willing to dedicate their entire lives to a single beautiful idea. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more fascinating stories from the past. What do you think of Harrison's struggle? Was the Board of Longitude justified, or was it pure professional jealousy? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. A thumbs up to the video is always hugely appreciated. It helps the channel a lot. And don't forget to check out my short channel, Hoodie History Shorts, for more bite-sized stories from the past. There's a link here and in the description. Thanks again for watching. Until next time, remember that good ideas can be timeless.